here is the fit, little crop top, some pants that I'm holding up with a belt because I don't like when they fall down a little bit. My hair's back in a little clip. It's second day hair, so I tend to put it back a little bit more often. As a content creator and a streamer, I do my best to bring the perspective of the community to light through educational content. But one perspective that is consistently asked of me to bring to light is that of the professional player in the scene. And I've never been a pro player. Well,
looking for something, a catch, anything that they can do to throw this in their favor, and they're going straight for Ray.
Full ripskis, here we go. Rayquaza is getting down. Here comes I hardly know her. Here comes Nouns. He's right in the middle, secured by Nouns. Come on, don't do this to us, Nouns. Don't do it to us.
Anyway, the professional player perspective is just something that I do not have, so I've not been able to talk about these crucial topics with you all from that perspective. Many of my videos shine a light on personal experiences with the game, and it has been pointed out time and time again that some claims I make may differ if I were to highlight this missing perspective. So I did some research on this area, and there is a lot that I don't understand. So in this video, I'm going to dive into some of the research that exists about the mentality of professional esports players through exploring the perspective of one of the most decorated pro players in the Pokemon Unite scene, Slashcan of Luminosity Gaming. Alright, so I've got Slashcan here from the Luminosity Gaming, pre-Worlds, a couple weeks until Worlds, so thank you, Slash, for doing this for me. Do you want to just introduce yourself? I know everyone's going to know who you are, but how about you introduce yourself anyway?
Hi, I'm Slash, two-time world champion. We recently made history by winning all 3 ICs in a season. I won NAIC back-to-back, and I'm excited for Worlds.
This is just going to be a conversation. We're just going to talk about a couple things, and I want to bring up some important points that I found in the research and ask you some questions relating to these points, and we're basically just going to yap about it for a little while. You can give your perspective. So hopefully this fills some of the gaps that I've been kind of seeing, trying to share my perspective. I'm obviously not a pro player, besides, of course, almost beating Nouns on stage at NAIC. Very close. We had to give them that win. But other than that, I don't really have that pro player perspective. So the first main topic that I kind of wanted to discuss that I saw throughout some research was the societal view surrounding esports players. It seems to cause a lot of potential stress or difficulties for esports players who are in this field. So I kind of wanted to ask, like, how do you kind of perceive that societal view and the community related view? Like, how has that kind of worked for you being here so far?
Yeah, so actually my experience has been really positive. Like, I didn't even tell my friends in high school. I became a pro at like 16, and I just remember like walking into school one day and they all started clapping for me in my like first period class. I had like a 0 hour, and because my friends knew my in-game tag as Slash, and they told everyone that I qualified for Worlds in Korea, and I became like kind of a mini celebrity at my school. People would constantly try to ask me about esports, so I actually had a very positive experience. However, I was raised by a single immigrant mom from Taiwan, and she was always very disapproving of my esports career. Actually, I brought her to Korea that same year, kind of showing her like, whoa, this is all you can do with esports, and she still hates on it to this day. She's still like, when are you retiring esports? When are you gonna finish your college degree? Stuff like that. Constantly like hating on esports. So I actually looked at your article, and it was interviewing a lot of Asian players. So I think there's like a difference between Asia and other countries. I actually think in North America, I'm not sure about other countries, it is viewed as like kind of cool and interesting. Every adult I've talked to about it thought it was like really cool. Like they didn't like judge it or disapprove of it. They actually found it extremely fascinating, and they would tell all their old friends about it and then tell me what everyone said. But I feel like in Asia, they take stuff a lot more seriously, especially like academics and stuff. So they kind of like highly disapprove of gaming over there. So I think there's like a cultural disconnect there.
Yeah, that's probably true. I mean, a lot of the papers that do research esports are Asian countries primarily. I guess that has to do with like North America hasn't really gotten into that field yet, but esports is generally like a much wider spread thing in Asia. But I would agree with you. I feel like that's probably is a really big cultural difference there, because I mean, I have like a job, I'm a professor, but I have like a lot of passion for being involved in esports, and I try to explain to family members and whatever who don't really play video games. I have 3 siblings. None of them are really like involved in gaming or anything. My parents aren't involved in it at all, but I try to explain like, oh, I do like some streaming for this game that I really like, and they're like, oh, do you you get paid for it? And I'm like, well, no, not like really, but sometimes I make like $60 or something every couple months. Like, not really. And they're like, okay, so that's cool that you have a passion, but it's not like looked down upon or anything like that. Is esports like your main career? Like, this is your job, this is what you do?
Right now, yes. I don't want to do it for like my whole life.
Mhm.
Probably. Especially not being a pro player. I mean, there's such a lifespan for that. But
Yeah.
after I graduate, I'm doing a marketing degree, and maybe I'd look to go into esports until I feel it's not like viable to make enough money with. But
Yeah.
I do find a lot of fun with it and passion as well.
No, yeah, because it's just like any like traditional sport. When you're young, you get, hired, whatever. You have but the lifespan is short. You get like 10-year contracts or whatever, and then you get too old, you don't play anymore. A lot of those players then stay involved with like their sport. They do casting and, whatever stuff like that. So, I feel like that's kind of what we're finding is the same for esports. But when there's this difference in culture and also difference in like generational like differences in how that type of thing is viewed, I feel like people might not everybody, obviously. Like, I feel like I've been supported. You're saying like you've been generally like very supported, but I feel like a lot of people like don't really understand that it's just the same. It has the same lifespan and same things, same like idea as traditional sports, where like you're not doing this kind of thing forever. You can make your living off of it for a good amount of years, and then like you figure it out afterwards. Does that seem like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
perception?
I agree. I actually compare esports to sports a lot. I think there's a lot of similarities. I think unfortunately esports is a lot more dangerous than sports because there's not like the support systems in place that
Mm-hmm.
sports has. There's not the monetization options. But I actually look at sports as the future of esports. So for example, gambling is very looked down upon, but I think it is like one of the only ways to kind of monetize entertainment like this. So sports has like a lot of like the sports betting and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that is a big revenue stream, and there's been a lot of pushback on that in esports, but I feel like it is necessary to make money because otherwise how are you making money? Like, you can't just rely on
Yeah.
developers to give money prize pools forever, right? So
Yeah, and for
but like it's
Unite, it's not as big either. I would love it to be,
yeah.
but
Yeah, exactly. And but like even like having like the coaches for keeping track of your fitness and like your mental health are not
mm-hmm.
there in esports when they are in sports. So yeah, it's like sports, but then it's like sports in its early years, which I think a lot of sports professional players in sports were kind of looked down upon when it wasn't like so professional, and like the
Mm-hmm.
systems were in place too. So I think you just see a lot of similarities with when sports were still becoming a mainstream job as
Yeah.
well.
Oh, for sure. Now it's like a big goal. I have my youngest brother is now 18, and he's like in high school, and he's a baseball player. He really wants to play baseball in college. He's always wanted to play baseball, and obviously when you're like a kid, you have that kind of goal, the like big goal that you don't necessarily like you might not get there, but when you're a little kid, it's like, "Oh, I want to be like a professional baseball player someday," or whatever.
Yeah.
If I feel like if kids now, like younger kids now, are like, oh, I want to be like a professional like esports player someday. I feel like those kind of things like aren't as encouraged because it's just not as fruitful. Even if you
Well,
do
even like
become a
parents that
pro.
aren't like judging it are like, can you make money off that? Like they have
Yeah,
no clue. Like a lot of the adults I talk to are like, how do you make money off of gaming? And they're like really confused and
yeah.
stuff.
I mean, some
But
people
yeah,
get
like I think
contracted, and like organizations sometimes will provide salaries to players, which they should do, but not all teams have those kind of sponsorships. The only way they do make money is by like winning the tournament. So it becomes like really difficult. I would love to see it get better because I think it deserves it. There's a market for it. People just don't understand it yet.
Yeah, so a lot of like when I was first getting into esports and I talked to people who've been around for a while, they're like, you have to make content. You can't just rely on making money off of just winning tournaments. Like if you want to actually make this career, you have to be a pro player and make content at the same time. It is
Mm-hmm.
so important. And it's kind of sad that that's the case because I feel like one of the most stressful parts about being an esports player is interacting with people online and like forced to make content and like being judged for your content and like how
Mm-hmm.
you act. When that's not necessarily the case for sports players, they can definitely act a lot more unruly and stuff. But esports players kind of have to make that living off of making content, and it's I think that's where a lot of mental health struggles come for esports players.
Yeah, so then let's talk about that a little bit more. You mentioned the community, you kind of have like a responsibility to your community in an online sense, like in an online world that in traditional sports they don't necessarily have. So, kind of along those lines, in terms of mental health, what do you kind of feel are those main stressors? Like, what about that tends to be really difficult for you and potentially other esports players?
Yeah, well, first off, it's like figuring out how to do everything is stressful on its own. Like, how do I even start at making good content? How do I start at having a life balance of doing pro gaming, stuff for the community, and um, also having like a regular life, you know? I feel like a lot of people struggle at the regular life part, especially
Mm-hmm.
in esports as well. But like I can share some of my personal experiences. Is like right now I have a really good balance. Like I love my YouTube community and I love making content on YouTube and it's really fun, easy, not really stressful. So that's kind of what I'm doing with my esports. But in the past, I really wanted Pokemon Unite to succeed as a game. I was like the biggest defender for the developers the first couple years. I really wanted to unite the community. I was not trying to make a joke there
No,
with
no
Unite,
pun intended.
but kind of other people don't realize how important it is to have like a united front as a community and how the a community can elevate a game to a higher level. There's so many small games that wouldn't be as successful without its community. I actually think the biggest example is the most popular game in the world right now, Minecraft. That like I feel like without the community, Minecraft would not have succeeded to the point it did. And obviously, there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of issues with the Minecraft community, but I would try to do stuff that I thought was necessary for the community to succeed and to help Unite succeed. So like for example, the LG Unite Discord, I was trying to do something really big for the community, and I
Mm-hmm.
spent like 10 hours a day at some points like trying to schedule events, trying to make this such a good community server. But then like there's obviously going to be backlash from people who don't like stuff. Everyone has their own perspective, so it's fine, but like people don't understand the bigger picture is like we need to have a united community, and it's just like I eventually had to give up because there wasn't enough support from the community. There's a lot of backlash, and that's why like nowadays like the LG Unite server is still like thriving, but I feel like it could have been so much more, or like
Mm-hmm.
even any Discord community could have been so much more and helped unite so much with the community. And I just kind of had to give up on that, and now I focus on my own content, and that's just a lot better than trying to stress about like because I feel like to try to lead the community, people want this perfect figure who's like has done no wrong, is like
Mm-hmm.
perfect in all ways, and that's just no one's like that in the world. Yeah, so it's really hard, and I just kind of I really love my community though, and I think they have helped me with mental health in a lot of ways. Like having that backing of people who genuinely believe in you and support you is really helpful and has gotten me out of like a lot of situations I feel like I wouldn't have been able to get through without having such a supportive community. So there's definitely pros and cons, and it's just the way you go about making content, I feel like.
Yeah, and I think that you kind of nailed it with like people in the community kind of expect like some great figure, like some god of the community that is like omnipotent. They've done nothing wrong. They have no sins, you know, like nothing for people to judge. And I think for a lot of esports players, and you know, correct me if I'm wrong, like that was never the goal of playing the video game. The goal of playing the video game was to play the video game, you know, potentially have a good time, be able to do it as a career, become a pro, whatever it was, not necessarily becoming a community figurehead, but that responsibility can sometimes just get placed on you. And I think for you specifically, like you have really taken that, you know, and been like, yeah, I want to do YouTube. I like the community, but maybe you could probably speak to it with you more connected in the pro community. But like for a lot of players, that isn't necessarily like a responsibility that they wanted.
Yeah, and I still do a lot for the community. Like, for example, NA was probably one of the weakest regions last year at Worlds, like debatably top 3 lowest regions. And I feel like a big part of that is a lot of the people that care a lot about the pro scene and community weren't at the top teams. So like for example, none of the NA teams were scrimming each other the whole year. They were scrimming other regions, and I feel like this is what made kind of Fusion come out of nowhere and just be the best region, because all the NA teams are giving the good practice to Fusion and not to each other. And that's what helped like the Latam regions go from one of the worst regions to one of the best regions, just seemingly out of nowhere, if you know the scrims out of behind the scenes. But like for example, this year I joined Luminosity again after being on Team G, and even on Team G I was scrimming every team. But like this year we're like the best team in NA, and I was like, we're scrimming every NA team. I don't care the gripes we have. Like if we want NA to be one of the best regions, and now I think it's arguably like the best or second best region, we should scrim every team. Like if you want the NA region to succeed, which will ultimately benefit everyone, including us, then we should just scrim every team. And it's just a bunch of little things like that. I feel like people don't understand the bigger picture, especially in the pro scene.
There is a lot of like, I mean, just from what gets thrown around on like Twitter or like Discords, whatever, the community in general is well aware of like issues between pro players or issues between teams or like difficulties that teams face. Like you said, you know, last year NA didn't want to scrim each other. It led to NA not being very good. This year a lot of people have had to kind of put those things aside, which I can imagine is pretty stressful in itself. But being in the pro scene is just kind of, you just have to accept what you have to accept to move forward. Does that kind of like sum it up?
Yeah, I feel like for me being as successful as I have been, I've had to let go of a lot of things people have done to me, a lot of grudges I should hold. That a lot of other people do hold for smaller things, but like there are like really terrible things people have done to me, and I'll still like interact with them. I'll still like be nice, because just ultimately it benefits everyone, including myself. Like I feel like that's part of my success is I'm not like cutting off doors or like you know, like I'm just like living my life, making sure I stay happy, mentally healthy, and competing well.
And seeing the bigger picture of it is something that not everyone is able to do. Not that I blame people for not being able to do that. A lot of people didn't necessarily ask for the amount of stress that being a pro player, you know, puts on you. But I think, yeah, a lot of people don't see what's going on behind the scenes. And maybe there's a Twitter fight one day and then everyone thinks they know everything that's going on. But not everybody sees like all of the, you know, all of the work that people are putting in to practice and scrim and, you know, prepare. So I think that's really interesting. There was a point that I wrote down from a couple different papers, but a lot of research has talked about the struggles that high-level esports players have with both physical and psychological stress. And some of the most common reasons that were cited are pressure to succeed, harassment from whether it's the community or outside of the community, and also communication with the gaming community and potentially teammates, which I think are all things that you've brought up here.
I think this ultimately, like, again, going back to comparing sports and esports, this ultimately comes from there not being set systems in place when it's kind of like an amateur league system. Like in sports, like every player at a top level has like the manager or like coaches that are helping them, supporting them, telling them what to do, what not to do, kind of protecting them from the outside world. And I feel like there's not that in esports. There's no one to tell these like 16-year-old pro players about their future career. Hey, don't account share, don't say a bunch of slurs online, you know, like, and I don't even necessarily blame kids for doing that. Like a lot of people as kids did that, but like there's just not like enough of a system in place to kind of protect players, and kind of players have to figure things out on their own. And that also comes with the fame that comes from being a pro player. So like for example, Overlord became famous kind of like overnight. And like I wouldn't even say it was 2022 Worlds. Like we got a lot of fans from that, but 2023 in Japan, he kind of became famous overnight. And I saw that affect him in so many ways that he might never heal from, honestly, even to this day. Like um there's like this thing, I forget what it's called, but a lot of like celebrities as kids kind of stop maturing mentally, because like they just get everything they ever wanted, because they got so famous. I'm not saying that happened to Overlord, but I'm just saying like there's a lot of pressures that come with having a bunch of yes men around you, with a bunch of fans that would do anything for you. And I feel like I've only been able to cope with it because I had a lot of lucky experiences from a young age, but it really affects a lot of people. And I've even heard in Japan, like the a big reason Fennel fell apart was because of these issues as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of people just assume that there's like some toxicity or some like individual players are these toxic people, and then that leads to, you know, teams crumbling. But it's also, and yeah, sure, there's toxic pro players. I think that there's like, it's a lot of younger people who haven't necessarily chosen to be in this position. Like, if people want to be a content creator, you're usually going to like choose to do that. You're gonna like put videos out, you're gonna stream, you're gonna do things to try to get noticed. If you're a pro esports player, maybe you do that, but maybe you also are just, you know, you want to play and be good at the game. You don't necessarily want to be famous and people recognize you. And when people are, and it's a lot of people that are very young, like there's a lot of like teenagers who are doing this. And I think when you're online, especially, and people know you from the internet, people are, in a way, going to be looking for things to hate you for, is what I've found, especially in pro esports environments, because it's viewed as very toxic communities.
Yeah, I agree. Like, for example, when I was talking about doing community work for like 10 plus hours a day, it was heavily affecting my gameplay. And then people that aren't like, there were people who even saw me like doing so much work for the community, and they would still like flame the fuck out of me for playing bad. And it's like, it's because I'm not hard grinding the game, but it's like, I feel like people don't have an appreciation for like those little nuances and stuff.
Yeah, that leads me into like another point that I had written, is specifically about time, because a lot of studies, or in one specific study, they had a specific metric to it where they said that pro players are training or doing related activities upwards of 15 hours per day, which there is no like, here's your legal hours that you're, you know, allowed to put into it. So they were averaging things out and found like up to 15 hours a day these players are working, and it often, it's physical health, it's mental, it's also cognitive. And what you're kind of saying, like even beyond hard grinding the game, you were taking like 10 hours a day to try to work on some community initiatives.
Yeah, so I do feel like this study is based on Asian players, and they do grind the game a lot more on average than the West. I actually cited this as a reason, I think in like my Unite Mike's interview or something else, maybe one of my videos, but I was like, this is why the West always falls behind Asia eventually, because the players just don't have the same culture of taking the game seriously, of like 15 plus hours a day. Like I can't name a single NA player going to Worlds that does that amount of time. So I'd say because Pokemon Unite's kind of a more amateur esport, the average pro player plays maybe around 4 to 8 hours a day of just that in scrims. And I'd say my team probably has a higher average, you know, like I generally start playing ladder like in the afternoon. I'll play like a couple hours before scrims, and then sometimes we have double scrims. So like I would be looking at like 10 hours a day of playing the game. Not to mention like editing videos, other stuff. And then also when it comes to tournaments, we really lock in like 2 weeks before tournament. That's when we start maybe doing like 15 hours a day. Like especially like boot camps. That's just 24 hours a day basically of Unite. Even when we're eating meals, we'll be talking about Unite as well. So but I do think there's a bit of a difference there, where gaming is fun, and a lot of the people who are pro gamers are there because they found the game fun. So it's not as taxing as, you know, doing something that you hate. A lot of people don't view it as work too. So There
Yeah.
is a bit of a difference there between someone doing like a 15-hour workday on a construction shift. Like that is completely different, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely different, but for a lot of people, it is your job to be doing it. So, as much as you enjoy it, it's still going to be work and still going to have that taxing, like, nature to it. Like, I love my job. I'm a professor. I love teaching. If I was teaching 15 hours a day, I would lose my mind. Like, there's things that are fun and are also, like, affecting players mentally and cognitively, and you're saying like you're on the higher end of practicing and you're still practicing like the lower end that you were estimating, like 4 to 8 hours, is still like a work day for people, not to mention like outside communications and potentially content that people are making. So I think like even if it is Asian countries doing the most like grinding and the West like falls behind, you're still being like, we should, in the back of your mind, I guess you're like, oh, we're gonna fall behind because we don't grind that hard, when that shouldn't be happening in the first place. Like no one should be playing 15 hours a day of Pokemon Unite or any game.
Yeah, well, so like this is where esports is a little different from sports, because I'd say in sports you can't grind 15 hours a day. Your body literally can't handle it. But in esports you can, how much you grind, and you can literally grind as much as you want because it's not like super taxing on your body, directly correlates to your performance and how well you play. And that's why you see all these top players playing so much, because it's like, honestly, as long as you have the talent there, whoever plays more, like if a player has 2 times more games than another player and they're both the same level of talent, they'll just inherently be way better, because the time really does matter when it comes to grinding. And that's why you see so many esports players putting so much time into it, because it's really easy to be able to do that, and it directly affects how much money you make. But I will give some tips that I've learned to be able to
please.
kind of balance this work-life balance. So number one, you might think, oh, I need to play as many games as possible, but it is extremely important to get that daily exercise in. I'd say set aside 30 minutes of exercise. It's gonna, like, if you're playing like 8 hours a day, taking off 1 hour to play 7 hours a day and getting 30 minutes of exercise is going to greatly boost your performance than getting that extra time in. It is so important to take care of yourself. Make sure you are obviously having a healthy, balanced diet. That is extremely important too. Another big tip is the best time to take breaks is right after big tournaments. So after Worlds, every single Worlds, I think I've taken like a 1 to 2 month break, because that is the best time to get like an actual long break in. And even after ICs, like LEIC, I'll take like a 1 to 2 week break. I remember after NAIC, I just had an amazing vacation with friends in New Orleans. And then even after I got home, I just spent a while to kind of unwind after getting back from a long trip. And I took like half a week to take a break as well. So I think those are extremely important to having that work-life balance.
Yeah, that's super important, and it's, I guess, something that isn't talked a lot about. We talked about this a little bit earlier when you brought up like in traditional sports, players have, they always have their coaches, they have like medical staff and potentially like mental health related medical staff to like help them deal with it. And in esports, that isn't necessarily something that's like provided. So a couple studies were talking about like coping mechanisms that a lot of players have and support systems that a lot of players have, and players were saying like, the way I cope is exercising, making sure that I'm staying physically healthy, making sure that I'm staying cognitively healthy, similar to how you did. But that isn't true for a lot of people. A lot of these studies were saying like players don't know how to develop that support system.
And I do want to mention, I feel like these esports players that said that's their coping mechanism, they don't even know like the absolute like correct answers. It's just from their experience. But I'd say the reason a lot of top players are toxic is because they don't even have an outlet for their stress. So what's the easiest way to outlet your stress as a pro player? To yell at randoms in game. I know Curios does that on stream all the time, and I don't think that's necessarily good. It would be better, to like have something that you can outlet your anger and stress into, like, music or journaling and stuff. But like these pro players don't realize that. I was lucky to I've been playing the violin since I was 5, so like I really recognize how much like creative outlets can help you with stress. And well, I will say when I was 16 and I was just becoming pro, I was extremely toxic. I did outlet my stress in the game, but it's been a long learning experience. People come to my streams and like, "Oh, like how are you so chill playing solo queue?" Like a lot of pro players are losing their mind on stream, and it's because I understand that like I don't think exercise can necessarily be an outlet unless you're like doing heavy weights like for like 2 hours a day. Like there needs to be some other outlet for your stress, I feel like.
Mm-hmm. So having important emotional outlets to have that kind of support. I think I was also toxic when I first started playing, and I was never even trying to be pro. Like it was for me streaming and being like I'm playing in front of an audience of people, and I don't find it enjoyable necessarily. Some people do. Sometimes I like people's niche, you know, to be like
Yeah.
tilted
Well, I
and
feel like
angry. But I was like, I don't like watching when people are like really mad and like upset. So I'm like, I don't really want to do that on like my community. So I was like, okay, I gotta, you know, try to figure out how to not be like so angry all the time, you know, and then there's like
Yeah.
no reason.
I feel like a lot of people's outlet was gaming. So like people who had other jobs, they started playing games as an outlet, and that's fine when you're just a casual player, you're not like a pro player. But when you're a pro player and it's your job, you need to start taking it more seriously and be like, okay, this can't be the outlet for all my anger anymore, because that's just not productive if you actually want to take it seriously. But I do like, I don't think there's anything wrong with like casual players who like have like another really stressful job and they come to gaming and they need kind of an outlet. Obviously, like don't be too toxic to people, don't insult them. But you know, getting tilted is, I feel like it's fine because these people are playing the game as an outlet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, getting frustrated is like part of it. Getting like a little pissy at something stupid that happens to you, it's like definitely part of it. Sometimes you just gotta be mad. Because of that, there's like an air of toxicity around gaming communities because of the frustration associated with it. But I think we'd find that there's an air of toxicity that exists in anything, any job, any traditional sport. Like people are mad at stuff. I don't know what else to say about it.
You need something to be mad at.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's exactly correct. And a lot of esports players, like you said, haven't necessarily built like themselves mentally to be able to work to that point to understand how to best use that outlet.
Yeah, and it's like how are these kids even supposed to know that though? And that comes back to my point of like, I mean, it's an open tournament structure, at least the past few years. Like now it's not, which I think is a good step forward to actually helping these esports players not struggle with mental health issues. But that's a whole nother topic. But yeah, like in the past few years, it's an open tournament structure. Anyone can compete and try to win. But then it's like basically the Wild West. Like these kids have to figure out how to do it on their own, and it's not necessarily good for anyone.
Yeah. So generally, that's kind of been like exactly what's been found in research in multiple different studies, and I can definitely see why that's true. One of the things that was talked about a lot that I also wanted to bring up was support system in general. Like has your experience been like with developing your support system surrounding your esports career?
Yeah, so I signed to Tribe Gaming in 2019 to play Brawl Stars Worlds, and they actually sent out a manager who was really experienced. And I took it for granted at the time, but it actually made it so easy to compete in esports. And then when I kind of wasn't like NA champ, I wasn't one of the best players, and I experienced what it's like to not have that manager that helps you with so many things, that is super experienced with that support structure. It made me realize how lacking support is. So what I'd say is like, I mean, what Unite has done is a good step in the right direction, where like every team has kind of the like spot in the NA franchise league or whatever, right? And then something that ACL was doing that I actually think was amazing was they had Pokemon hired specific like managers for every team to make sure they were doing okay and stuff like that. And I think that'd be great to bring to NA as well. At LAN, they were only doing it at LAN turns, but I'm just saying in general, like having that staff that's kind of dedicated to your team to help them out, help them figure things out, and not like judge, you know, not be like, holy you're breaking the rules, I'm going to DQ you, you know, like actually help them become better like with their mental health and everything. I think that would be a great next step. But like the issue is like, where are you even going to get the money for that, right? Like it's not like there's enough money in esports to kind of warrant like an actual professional coach to help. So the other next step I think would just be people like you who are talking about this and these issues, and you know, eventually develop guides on YouTube about like the support structures that are needed. Like for example, I think that the taking a break after tournaments is a must. Like taking a 3-week break after tournaments should just be a rule. And I didn't learn that off of some guide. I actually learned it because I was studying some of the best esports players in the world. So like I learned this from Faker. It was like it was like talking about interviews with Faker, and one of the things he said was like he always takes a like 3-week break after Worlds, or it might have been even longer. But that's how I learned how to do that. But like there's not even those like guides in place or like anything that like young players can like kind of turn to when they need guidance, you know. So I think if there's not any money in the scene, like that's probably the best step forward, is like actually like you know, like unitedb.com in Pokemon Unite, everyone uses it, right? So like for example, if they just put an article on their page or like put a step-by-step guide about how to kind of control your mental health or stuff like that, I think it would be great. Like stuff like that would probably be the next step forward.
Yeah, there's resources that exist. I mean, if you're looking, right? Like if you're looking on purpose, like you were like studying esports players to try to be the best player, the best that no one ever was. I think that for a lot of players, potentially they're not necessarily seeking out resources like that. They might just be, it might just be better, I guess, for them to like stumble across it and just come to an understanding, because there isn't a lot of push for that kind of help.
And there's even like I don't know what's happened with Lotus 8 recently, but I know like back in the day when I was trying to form the LG Unite server, like I was talking to their owner and he's really interested in mental health. And he was trying to get more community support around it, but like he got no community support because people don't realize how important it is to set up these structures and stuff for young players.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I think there are some orgs that likely, you know, try to establish some kind of support, whether like psychological support or, you know, just any kind of tips and things like that. But it is not everybody. And it may be just like something that we need to start working towards as an esports community.
Yeah, that was actually like big. Before I stopped working on the LG Unite server, that was the next like step. We were gonna have this whole category released about like mental health and like stuff like this to help people. But yeah, I feel like there's just people don't realize the need for it. So I mean, you like doing interviews like this, talking about like this stuff, I think is really important, and it helps more people realize how important it is. There's just so much inexperience. It's such a, like a blossoming field that it's really hard. Like I know like there's so many things I've had to push for since I've been a pro player for so long with my team. I'm like, we need to start doing this. We need to start doing this. And they're like, we're winning. Like, why do we need to? And it's honestly, you can look at our career and see like they don't actually improve until we lose. And they're like, oh shit, something needs to change. And I'm like, why don't we do these things I've been saying for months we should do? And they're like, fine, okay. And we do it, we improve again, we win. And then it's a cycle and stuff, which is something we've been constantly fighting. And I think hopefully we fix that cycle for Worlds, because, you know, we won NAIC. Hopefully there's no dip. That's the goal.
Yeah, every land
this
year, right?
Yeah, but it's like there's like esports players that are winning. Like they'll be like world champions, and they're like, why do I need to change anything in what I'm doing? I'm winning. You know, like why do I need to do this mental health stuff? Like I'm doing okay, until they're not doing okay. But then like people are looking to them as like the number one resource for tips and like strategies on what to do, and then like they're saying like, oh, like I didn't do any mental health stuff, like this isn't important. So like people don't even realize the need for it, you know.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And that kind of brings me to the one figure that I had from one paper that I'll bring up here. It's the translational model of stress and coping skills of esports players. It was super interesting, so I just wanted to kind of show it to you because it has kind of a lot of what we've been talking about. The stressors leading to different moderators that have to take place to the outcome of being able to continue pursuing esports careers. So I kind of just wanted to get your perspective, like first look on this kind of model that was made. 2022 is when this was published. What do you think of, I mean, we've talked about a lot of stuff, but like kind of what is your reaction here?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it looks like it hit a lot of the good points. I mean, like the sleep management is something we haven't even touched on, but I think a lot of pro players at their sleep schedules, and that's
Yes.
really bad. Like I know from personal experience, like my sleep schedule was horrendous the first couple of years, and it really affected me in a lot of ways. But it's
Yeah.
like the like a lot of the homies or the top players won't even be on until 2 a.m. So then it like even like I even knew I needed to fix my sleep schedule, but when I first got into Unite, it's like the grind never stops. Like, oh, people are just trying to get on at like 1 a.m. I guess I have to play until 5 a.m. You know, like it is hard when you're trying to make a name for yourself, to kind of keep these scenes in balance.
Yeah, I think that's something. Here, I'll bring us back. I think that's something too. Like we didn't talk too much about like sleep management, but that's something I didn't even think of. Like I'm like, oh yeah, you got to get good sleep, so you should like make a sleep schedule where you can get 7.5 hours or however much sleep that you need. But I didn't even consider that whoever you're trying to scrim with or your teammates or practice might not have the same sleep schedule as you.
You'd be shocked at the how many like basic life things that esports gamers don't know, because a lot of them were like skipping out on school to like play games a lot. So for example, a funny story from NAIC was my teammates, not me, 3 of my teammates ordered pizza 3 days in a row, like pizza takeout 3 days in a row when we were in New Orleans. And then on the day of, like the admins were like, okay, you guys have to be here by 8 a.m. sharp. We were 2 minutes late because Overlord was having dietary issues. And I was like, hey, like this is because you were only eating Domino's takeout pizza last 2 days. And he's like, no, that's completely unrelated. Like that has no relation to my medical dietary issues. And I'm like, okay. And like the whole team even agreed with him. And I'm like, okay. Then like, I mean, it's like if you tried not eating Domino's takeout pizza 3 days in a row, you might have not had dietary issues. But I guess like if they don't even realize the correlation, and then it's like there's so many gamers I talk to that like they don't even realize even how to fix their sleep schedule. They're like, oh yeah, like I really struggle with sleep, but I just like it's like I've tried to fix it, and I'm like, what have you done to try to fix it? And like they don't even know. But it's I mean, I had to research a lot too to know how to fix sleep. That's not even something they talk about in school actually much. But it's like keeping a consistent time when you go to sleep and wake up is super important. There's like pretty easy tools you can try to use, like melatonin, gummies, and like other stuff that would also help, like not being on your screen an hour beforehand. But they don't even try this stuff. You're like, oh, I did try to sleep at 1 a.m. I just couldn't sleep for some reason. And it's like that's not how you fix your sleep schedule, but a lot of people don't know.
Side tangent, I just did a study, like I just participated in a study of a friend of mine who's doing like a study on Pokemon sleep and its correlation to like how you're sleeping. And I'm a Pokemon sleep tryhard, like not gonna lie, love that game. Doing this study was interesting because they're trying to figure out like has this helped. And in the surveys they mentioned a lot about, did you go to bed at the same time that you woke up? Oh, it's a kid. Hello. Who is this?
Her name is Maymay.
Hello, Maymay. Existence.
Pets do help a lot.
Oh,
I do think
sure.
pets help a lot.
But yeah, this study about Pokemon sleep, and it was like, oh, ask if you have like a partner that you sleep with, like ask them if you snore, or ask them if you like move a lot in your sleep. So I like asked my fiance, I'm like, do I do this? And they're like, no, you don't like snore, but you move all the time, like you jerk around all the time. And I'm like, I guess I'm not sleeping as soundly as I thought, and it might relate to like why I'm tired all the time. But I wouldn't have known unless I was like working on this study or having these conversations and doing things like that. And I think that's, for esports players, it's like, oh, you have to go to bed at 1. Great, I'll just try to go like lay down at 1. And obviously if you've been going to sleep at 5, you're not going to be tired at 1 a.m.
Yeah, and then they also have like this blue light blaring into their face the whole day, and they didn't take a break from it.
Yeah, breaks are important. Sleep is important. Things that we know. Anything else you want to? Those are all the questions that I had. Anything else that you want to add? You specifically want people to know?
Not really. I mean, we covered a lot more than I thought we would, honestly. So
cool. Yeah, I like to get to the point. Why don't you just give, obviously I'm going to include, you know, all of Slash's links in the description, but why don't you give a couple shout outs?
Yeah, I'm /Can on most socials. I think Twitch, YouTube. I just started multi-streaming, so you can catch me on either of those. I stream semi-daily, but I've been working on the World's Players tier list right now, so a lot of people are hyped for that.
Yes.
I've done it every year where I rank all the players, so I will say a lot of upgrades are happening to it, so I'm super excited.
Awesome.
I think people will really love it, so definitely make sure to turn on notifications for that. I might do like a premiere or something, I'm not sure yet.
Awesome.
But I think it'll be really fun this year. I'm gonna have a lot of fun. Already set a date with Spraggles on when to record it, so it's coming out very soon. I just did a Ho-Oh guide. I've had guides really requested on my channel, so if you want to see the world champion defender, best defender in the world, play Ho-Oh, the new reworked Ho-Oh, you can feel free to check that out as well.
I'm hyped for the pro player tier list. That has always been a blast for just like from someone who doesn't know all of the pro players. It's so much fun, so I'm excited for that.
I'll give you a free sneak peek for the World's Players tier list if you'd like here.
Oh yeah,
for everyone who stayed till the end, a little reward.
Absolutely.
So I have asked all the teams for what picture they would want to be used. So every player is gonna have the picture that they wanted for the people that responded. So it's gonna look really upgraded in the visuals. You'll be able to like actually see what these people look like, or what they wanted you to see at least. And then I also have asked a player from every region to help rank players as well. So that's going to be hype. You're going to get to know the pro players more.
Slash, thank you so much for doing this. I think it's super important. I know that you're super busy preparing for Worlds and the pro player tier list that's coming up, so I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Have a great day, everyone.
That's going to do it for us, and I will see you all next time. Bye.